Israel supported and is alleged to support militant organizations that conduct acts of terrorism against its enemies in the Middle East. Particular efforts are made to prevent its neighbors from developing nuclear capabilities, part of a general effort to maintain a qualitative military edge over its numerically superior adversaries. Israel is involved in an ongoing proxy war with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Similarly, it provides medical assistance to Syrian rebels on its border who are fighting the Iran-backed Assad government in Syria. Proxies against Iran. Iran is a belligerent enemy of Israel. Though they have never been at war, both nations make efforts to undermine the other's influence in the region through various means: diplomatic, economic, and military. This includes the use of proxies which facilitate indirect conflict between the powers, and in the case of Iranian proxies, Hamas and Hezbollah. Outright war. The Israeli government supports groups in conflict with Iran's government. Among the groups Israel supports are the People's Mujahideen of Iran, a secular Iranian opposition movement in exile that opposes the changes made to Iranian society in the Islamic Revolution and advocates the overthrow of the Iranian government. The PEK is opposed to Iranian nuclear ambitions and revealed the existence of Iran's nuclear program in 2002. In the interval between January 2007 and January 2012, 4 scientists working for Iran's nuclear program, Masoud al-Mohammadi, Majid Shahriari, Dariush Reza-Inajad and Mustafa Ahmadi Roshan, were assassinated. American observers considered the campaign a cooperation between the Mossad and the MEK, leading to allegations of Israel teaming up with terrorists. The European Union, Canada and the United States formally listed the MEK as a terrorist organization, but this designation has since been lifted, first by the Council of the European Union in January 26, 2009, then by a decision by U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton on September 21, 2012, and lastly by a decision by the Canadian government on December 20, 2012. According to NBC News, unnamed U.S. officials have confirmed that members of MEK were trained and armed by Mossad to assassinate the scientists. In an interview with Der Spiegel, Moshe Ya'alon hinted that Israel was behind the assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists. The Badkana explosion was a large explosion that occurred in 1330 local time, the 12th of November 2011 in Shahid Modar's missile base. According Time magazine, an unnamed Western official said implied the explosion was deliberate. Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak said about the explosion, "May there be more like it." Major General Hassan Tehrani Mofaddam was killed in this explosion nearly a year before Badkana explosion, about 11 local time, the 12th of October 2010. An explosion occurred in Khorram Abad Imam Ali garrison. The Daily Telegraph wrote that the Israelis' media claims this explosion is a sabotage by Israel. Lavon Affair. The Lavon Affair is an unsuccessful Israeli covert operation, code-named Operation Susanna, conducted in Egypt in the summer of 1954. As part of the false flag operation, a group of Egyptian Jews were recruited by Israeli military intelligence to plant bombs inside Egyptian, American and British-owned civilian targets, cinemas, libraries and American educational centers. The bombs were timed to explode several hours after closing time. The attacks were to be blamed on the Muslim Brotherhood, Egyptian communists, unspecified malcontents or local nationalists, with the aim of creating a climate of sufficient violence and instability to induce the British government to maintain its occupying troops in Egypt's Suez Canal zone. The operation caused no fatality, except for operative when a bomb he was taking to place in a movie theater ignited prematurely prematurely in his pocket for 2 members of the cell who committed suicide after being captured, and for 2 operatives who were tried, convicted and executed by Egypt. The operation ultimately became known as the Lavon Affair. Following this operation, the Israeli Defense Minister Pinhas Lavon was forced to resign, even though Israel denied any involvement in the operation for 51 years. The surviving members were honored by Israeli President Moshe Katsav in 2005. 1950–51 Baghdad bombings. 1951 Baghdad bombings refers to a series of bombings of Jewish targets in Baghdad, Iraq, between April 1950 and June 1951. There is a dispute around the true identity and objective of the offenders behind the bombings, and this issue remains unresolved. 2 activists in the Iraqi Zionist underground were found guilty by an Iraqi court for a number of the bombings, and were sentenced to death. Another was sentenced to life imprisonment, and 17 more were given long prison sentences. The allegations against Israeli agents had wide consensus amongst Iraqi Jews in Israel. Many of the Iraqi Jews in Israel who lived in poor conditions blamed their ills and misfortunes on the Israeli Zionist emissaries or Iraqi Zionist underground movement. The theory that certain Jews carried out the attacks in order to focus the attention of the Israel government on the plight of the Jews was viewed as more plausible than most by the British Foreign Office. Telegrams between the Mossad agents in Baghdad and the superiors in Tel Aviv gave the impression that neither group knew who was responsible for the attack. Israel has consistently denied involvement in the bombings. Israel-Syrian rebels' relationship. In a report of UN Disengagement Observer Forces said that Israel provides medical assistance to wounded Syrian rebels including ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Israeli officials stated in response that they provide humanitarian aid to wounded combatants and civilians regardless of their identity. One UNDOF report stated that 2 boxes of unspecified content were transferred from Israel to Syrian rebels and that the soldiers of IDF met with Syrian rebels in the east of the border.